The sheriff's cruiser didn't come fast. No sirens. No lights. Just tires soft on the pavement, rolling up to the curb like this was routine. Like serving a life-wrecking order was part of the weather forecast. And maybe for him it was. Maybe he'd walked up enough driveways to know when something was about to break for good. He parked across from the mailbox I installed in '09. Susan had picked it. Wrought iron with a curved top and those little magnetic numbers she made me line up 3 times until they looked right. Now it stood there like a headstone. Susan was on the porch in that old blue robe. Not the one she wore when she dressed for company. The one with the tear at the sleeve I mended in secret. It was soft from so many washes, the kind of fabric that held shape even when the body underneath was shaking. And she was shaking. Not crying. Not yelling. Just trembling all over. Like her bones were struggling to stand inside her. Behind her was Kara, half-shadowed by the doorframe. No robe for her. Leggings, hoodie, hair in a loose knot that said she hadn't slept. Eyes wide. Hands clasped tight to the phone like a crucifix. Like the screen could absolve her. She peered around her mother's shoulder like a scared little girl. Like a thief watching the cops pick through the silver drawer. Except she wasn't a girl anymore. 32. Grown. Old enough to ruin a life and pretend it was self-defense. And she had ruined it. Mine. The neighbors didn't miss it. This block doesn't miss anything. Across the street, Mrs. Gladys Meyer had her curtain pulled back a finger's width. Just enough to watch the spectacle. She's lived there since the '70s. Nothing gets past her. I saw another neighbor open their garage halfway, standing inside with a rake like they just happened to be reorganizing garden tools at 11:30 on a Wednesday morning. And I stood there, on the sidewalk, not on the porch, not at the door, not 1 inch inside what used to be mine, just standing in the cold, jacket zipped halfway, hands deep in my pockets like I was holding on to something that might still be real. The sheriff stepped out of the cruiser. Average height, average build, middle-aged, not young enough to be uncertain, not old enough to have compassion carved in by experience. His boots crunched dry leaves. He walked slow, calm, like he was bringing a menu to someone who'd already ordered. "Ma'am," he said, voice like flat gravel. "This property is legally owned by Mark Ellison. You need to vacate the premises." He didn't look at me. He didn't need to. I was just the name on the paper. Susan's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Her fingers clutched the robe tighter. The sleeves twitched. Kara's breath caught. That fake hiccup cry she does when she wants to sound broken. "That's not," she tried. She shook her head, tears pooling but not falling. She looked to me like I'd come to put out a fire, like I'd brought a blanket and a hug and some quiet lie that would make this all go away. Just like I always had when she was 20 and pregnant and scared. When she was 25 and jobless and lying about it. When she was 30 and drowning in debt and handing me the bill. 17 years of catching her fall. And now this. The sheriff flipped to the next page in the folder. "This order is effective immediately," he said. "Refusal to comply may result in forced removal." Susan finally turned her face to me. I braced myself. I waited for it. The venom. The last dagger. A scream. A spit in the dirt. Something to justify all the cold silence in my chest. But it didn't come. Instead, she looked like a woman waking up in a house that used to be hers. But nothing was in the right place. Like she couldn't find the light switch. Her face was pale. Her eyes were dry. But she looked small. Not fragile. Just diminished. As if somewhere inside, the truth had already landed. It just hadn't settled. And I felt it. That terrible, sick pull. The part of me that still wanted to shield her. The part of me that remembered the woman who said, "Thank you," when I repaired the dishwasher at midnight. Who brought me coffee during Sunday repairs. Who said, "Careful, Mark," while holding a ladder as I replaced the porch bulb. But I remembered something else too. I remembered her voice 3 weeks earlier, after Kara threw that accusation like a grenade into the kitchen. Her voice sharp, cold. "Get out. You don't belong here anymore." So I didn't move. I didn't reach. I didn't soften. I breathed. Slow. Even. like Diane Keller taught me. And when the sheriff paused, I spoke. I didn't come to argue, I said. I came to take my life back. You could hear a bird wing past in that silence. The street held its breath. Even the leaves seemed to freeze. Kara made a choking sound. I didn't look at her. Susan looked like she might faint. But I stood there, still, heavy, grounded. A man who'd finally decided that survival was worth more than appearances. And that was the moment I understood something. I might survive this. Because 3 hours after Susan threw me into the rain with nothing but a lie clinging to my back, the police had called my name. And that call, that quiet, polite call from a cop who didn't care who I was only the beginning. The night it happened, it didn't look like a collapse. It looked ordinary. It looked like casserole and local news and a storm warning scrolling past the bottom of the screen. It looked like Kara walking in late, her hair damp, hoodie too thin for November, her voice sweet and strained, "Hey, Mom!" It looked like me sitting at the table I built with my own 2 hands. The one with the wobble I never got around to fixing. A man finishing his plate while pretending the silence between him and his wife wasn't permanent. Susan asked Kara how work was going. Kara said, "Fine." Then she said, "Whatever." That was her favorite word, whatever. Whatever meant, "Don't ask me to explain." It meant, "I don't owe you anything." It meant, "I'll say what you want to hear if it means I can go back to scrolling through lies on my phone." I didn't say much. I'd learned the rules. There were nights you spoke, and nights you waited for the roof to cave in. Kara took her food, barely touched it. The rain started tapping the windows. Then her phone dinged. One sound, one note, like a key turning. She froze. I saw it. The change. Her breath caught. Her eyes flicked up. Her mouth opened. And I knew. I didn't know what, but I knew. She stood, walked to the kitchen. Susan followed. And that's when the lie began. They didn't ask me to leave the kitchen. They didn't lower their voices. They stood 5 feet from me, Kara holding her phone like it was sacred scripture. Susan standing just behind her like a believer waiting to be convinced. "It's him," Kara said, pointing the glowing screen at her mother. I was rinsing my plate. Steam from the hot water curled against the window pane. I shut off the tap and turned, drying my hands slowly on the towel Susan used to hang up neat and square. Tonight it hung crooked, damp, forgotten. "What are you talking about?" I asked. Kara didn't answer me. She only looked at Susan, eyes wide, chin trembling, a practiced quiver. I checked my email. There are logins from this house, from this IP address. I didn't do it. Her voice was trembling, fragile, the kind of fragile people mistake for bravery. "And there are messages," she added, whispering now. "Messages that say someone's watching me. Messages that sound unhinged." Susan's face drained of color. I took a step closer. "What messages?" Kara didn't look at me. She tilted the phone so I couldn't see. I knew something was off, and now I have proof. Her voice had that rise and fall cadence, like she was reading a script. I watched her eyes, calculating, not afraid. Susan blinked. "Mark," she said slowly. "What is she talking about?" I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I haven't touched anything. I don't know her passwords. I wouldn't even know where to begin." Kara laughed, soft, mocking, the sound of someone confident the trap has sprung. "Of course you'd say that," she said, stepping behind Susan now, just slightly, like she needed shielding. Susan's gaze was fixed on me, but I could feel it hardening, shaping itself around the idea that I might be dangerous. "Kara," she said, "are you sure?" "Mom," she said, voice quivering, "I don't feel safe." And that word, it cracked something in the air. Safe. A word that doesn't need evidence. A word that can erase years in a heartbeat. Susan stepped between us. I laughed once. Not bitter, just stunned. "You're serious? You think I'm hacking your accounts?" Kara didn't speak. Her silence was the accusation. 17 years, I said, stepping back now. 17 years, Kara. I paid your car note. I fixed your credit. I co-signed your lease. When your boyfriend left you with debt collectors breathing down your neck? Who answered the phone? I did. When you overdrew your accounts 5 times in 1 month? Who covered it? I did. Susan's jaw tightened. Mark, this isn't helping. No, I said. No, I bet it isn't. Because helping is all I've done. And now I'm the threat? Kara wiped at her eyes. The mascara smear was perfect. Just enough to look real. I had seen her rehearse this kind of crying before. When she needed rent. When she needed an excuse. When she needed someone to believe she was the victim. I'm not trying to cause a problem, she said. I just want to feel safe. That word again. That sacred bulletproof word. And that's when Susan's voice snapped, sharp and final. Get out. I blinked. What? Get out of my house, she said. You don't belong here anymore. There was no argument in her tone. No invitation to defend myself. Just finality. I looked from her to Kara. I saw it then, the satisfaction barely hidden under the faux panic. Kara's mouth twitched at the corner, a smile trying to sneak through the mask. I could have screamed, could have pulled out every receipt, every email, every favor. Could have reminded them of every late night, every busted pipe, every dollar I shoveled into a life that clearly wasn't mine. But I didn't. I turned, walked to the back door, took my work jacket off the hook, the one I wore when I fixed their broken world. I slipped it on, grabbed my keys, my phone, my wallet. The kitchen smelled like lemon cleaner and betrayal. As I stepped into the cold, the rain hit my face like judgment. The porch light was off. I didn't look back. I didn't slam the door. I didn't say goodbye. I walked into the storm. The call came just past 1 in the morning. I was sitting in my car behind the grocery store. No hotel. No plan. Just the thrum of rain on the roof and the glow of the dashboard clock. Mr. Ellison? The voice said. This is Officer Tom Reynolds with the Dayton Police Department. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Am I under arrest? No, sir. This is a welfare check. Welfare. Another word designed to sound soft. But it's loaded like a gun. I'm fine, I said, sitting in my car. Haven't done anything. Would you be willing to answer a few questions? I said yes. What choice did I have? He asked where I was. I told him. He asked if I'd left voluntarily. I said yes. He asked if I'd threatened anyone. Never, I said. Then the pause. Do you and your wife jointly own the house on Briarwood Drive? And that's when the air shifted. No, I said. Just me. It's in my name. Only yours. Yes, only mine. Another pause. Longer this time. That's all for now, he said. We'll note that you cooperated. I hung up, sat there for a long time. The rain had turned to drizzle, soft and cold. My phone screen glowed with nothing. Vague complaint. No evidence. That's what he'd said. One lie. One good performance. That's all it took to turn me into a shadow. I drove to Ron's. My brother opened the door in a t-shirt and old jeans, blinking sleep from his eyes. You look like hell. Feel like it, I muttered. Boots off. Coffee's on. That was Ron. 60. Union man. A face like a warning sign. He didn't ask questions. He poured gas station coffee into a chipped mug and set it in front of me. She finally did it, huh? I nodded. Over Kara? Another nod. He didn't say I told you so. He didn't need to. I crashed on his couch. The cushions smelled like pine and old cigars. I slept in 30-minute stretches, waking up each time with Susan's scream in my ears. Get out. In the morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I looked at the paperwork. Mortgage statements, refinance documents, the deed. It was all there. My name, no one else's. Susan had insisted back then. I don't want my name on anything, she'd said. I screwed up once. I don't want to drag you down. I'd taken that as trust, as partnership. Now it was proof, cold and hard. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Then I picked up my phone and searched for a name. Diane Keller. Small firm. No billboards. No commercials. But every review said the same thing. Sharp, focused, relentless. I called. Left a message. She called back within the hour. Her office sat above a barber shop that still used hot towels and cash registers. The stairs creaked. The hallway smelled like lemon and dust. She looked over her glasses when I walked in. Hair back. No smile. "Mr. Ellison?" she asked. "Yes." "Sit. Start from the beginning. Don't skip the boring parts." So I told her. All of it. The casserole. The fake tears. The rain. The scream. She didn't blink. When I finished, she said, "You did the right thing by leaving. I lost my house." "No," she said. "You lost access. There's a difference." She slid a copy of the deed toward me. "My name. Just mine. This gives you leverage," she said. "Don't waste it." "What do I do?" "You wait. You don't text. You don't argue. You don't go near the property. You document. You let them feel safe. Safe people get careless." That word again. Safe. She leaned back, fingers steepled. "They threw you out over a lie. Now we let the truth walk in." I left her office with a folder under my arm and something strange in my chest. Not hope. Not revenge. Something colder. Cleaner. Resolve. Waiting wasn't easy. Patience never was my strength. I'm the kind of man who fixes things. Wobbling doors. Leaky seals. Loose railings. I don't sit around hoping they heal themselves. I get the tools and I get to work. But this time, the tools weren't mine. They were Diane's. The work wasn't physical. It was legal. Strategic. Quiet. I stayed at Ron's. He cleared a corner of the garage for my things. What little I took when I left. A duffel bag with clothes, a small box of receipts and paperwork, and my toolkit. Felt surreal packing it. Like I was moving into a war zone. Except the battle had already started, and I was the only one not swinging. Every morning I woke before the sun. Showered. Dressed. Made myself coffee in the tiny kitchen with its crooked blinds and the calendar Ron still hadn't flipped to the right month. I sat at the table with my cup and stared at the wall, thinking of all the things I didn't say to Susan that night. All the things I'd swallowed for years. I drove past the house most days. Not out of spite, just out of habit. I didn't slow down, didn't stop, but I looked. Lights were on at strange hours. A different car in the driveway one night. Music thumping through the walls another. The lawn hadn't been mowed since I left. The mailbox was starting to lean again. It had a hairline crack in the post. I warned Susan it'd give out eventually. She didn't text. She didn't call. Neither did Kara. I wasn't surprised. Silence is power. And they thought they'd won. What they didn't know was that I'd started digging. Diane walked me through everything. We met 3 times in that first week. Each time she handed me new instructions. "Start with the bank records," she said. "You've got shared accounts? Joint checking, but I haven't used it in months. Still, look, track patterns. Watch for transfers, purchases, cash withdrawals." So I did. I spent hours sorting through line items, each one like a breadcrumb leading to betrayal. $120 to a spa I didn't recognize. $400 at a boutique. Then came the cash apps. Venmo, Zelle. Transfers to names I didn't know. At times I could prove Susan and Kara were home. Then Diane asked me something simple. "Do you still have access to your shared email?" "Yes." "Start checking the drafts folder. That's where the real rot was. Receipts. Screenshots. Even a half-written email from Kara to someone named Ben, complaining about how he still thinks he owns this place, and will bleed him dry before the year ends. My jaw locked so tight I thought my teeth might crack. I sent it to Diane. She called 5 minutes later. "That's not just manipulation," she said. "That's premeditated. What do? We document. We wait." Those were her answers to everything. And slowly, I began to see the wisdom in it. Because while we waited, they got careless. Kara posted a photo on Instagram, her standing on my front porch, holding a mug I bought in Nashville 12 years ago. The caption, "Home is where the drama isn't." I recognized the mug instantly. It had a small chip in the handle. I remember how Susan said it reminded her of me. Solid. Useful. A little broken. She'd laughed when she said it. I pretended to laugh too. Then came the Facebook posts. Not from Kara but from her friends. Photos of wine nights at the house. The living room filled with people I'd never met. Someone's dog chewing on a throw pillow I bought last Christmas. Ron printed them out for me. Figured you'd want a copy. I didn't ask how he got them. I didn't care. The worst came late one night. A photo of Kara at the dining table, my dining table, laptop open, middle finger raised to the camera. The caption read, "Still not sorry." Diane added it to the file. "That one's gold," she said. "No lawyer can defend that attitude in front of a judge." A week later, I got the first text from Susan. "We need to talk." That was it. No apology. No explanation. I didn't reply. Diane's voice in my head. "Silence is not weakness. It's strategy." A few days later, Mark, "We're struggling. Can we meet? Just talk." I waited a full hour before deleting it. Then came the call. I answered out of habit. "Mark," she said, her voice soft, breathy. Like it used to be when we lay in bed and the world hadn't turned cold. "What do you want?" "We need help." "With what?" She hesitated. "Money," she finally said. "Kara's having a hard time. The apartment is expensive." "She doesn't have an apartment." "What?" "She lives in my house. On my dime." Silence. "You changed the locks," I added. "I thought you left for good." "You told me I didn't belong." Another silence. Longer this time. "I didn't mean." "Yes, you did." I hung up. 10 minutes later, Diane called. "They're panicking," she said. "This is when they'll slip up." She was right. The sheriff's office processed the filing on a Tuesday. Exclusive occupancy. Emergency petition. Property seizure. Diane explained it all in dry legal terms. But I heard what she meant. The clock was ticking. I started getting notifications. Credit pulls. Loan applications. Someone tried to open a store card in my name. Then a second attempt, same day. Diane filed a fraud report. She didn't ask if it was Kara. She knew. A week passed. Then came the big one. An alert from the mortgage company. Request for refinance. Diane forwarded it to me with a single line. "They're trying to buy time." She filed a cease and desist. Sent the documentation. Called the sheriff. "Soon," she said. "Very soon." I spent that night in my car. Not because Ron didn't have space. Not because I couldn't sleep inside. But because I needed the quiet. The dark. The closed space where no one could reach me. I sat in the driver's seat. Engine off, windows cracked. The smell of oil and cold January air filling my lungs. I thought of the 17 years I spent in that house. Every inch I painted. Every floorboard I nailed down. Every drain I unclogged. I thought of Susan's face that night, cold and final. I thought of Kara's lie. And then I thought of what Diane said the first day. Let them feel safe. Safe people get careless. I looked at the screen of my phone. It was 3:14 a.m. And for the first time since I left, I smiled. Not because I was winning, but because they had finally shown me who they were. And I'd finally stopped pretending. The sheriff gave us a date. 11:30 a.m., Diane said, sliding the paper across her desk. "Be there. Say nothing unless asked." I stared at the time. I knew what it meant. Knew what would happen. They'll be served. Yes. And if they resist? They won't, she said. People like Susan and Kara, they fold when it's official. When it's public. They count on shame being private. I left her office and drove straight to the house. Not to stop, not to linger, just to look. I parked a block away, watched from behind tinted glass. The windows were open. Kara sat on the porch in a tank top, laughing into her phone. Her feet on the railing. My railing. That night I didn't sleep much. I lay on Ron's couch, staring at the ceiling fan. I remembered how Susan used to run her fingers across my arm while we watched late-night TV. How she used to hum, barely audible, when the room was quiet. That hum had been gone for years. I just hadn't noticed until now. At 10:45 a.m. The next morning, I was parked down the street from my own house. I wore my work jacket, the same one I left in, out of habit more than anything. The name patch on the chest had started to peel. It didn't matter. It was still mine. The sheriff's cruiser rolled up at 11:29, quiet and smooth. No fanfare. No drama. That's what made it hit harder. Like a closing door. Susan opened the front door before he reached the steps. She'd been watching. Her face was composed, but her arms were folded tight across her chest. A defense, not warmth. Kara stood behind her, arms folded too. Barefoot. Same porch. Same smirk. Across the street, Gladys Meyer stood in her window like a statue. She knew. She always knew. You can't hide a reckoning from Gladys. "Ma'am," the sheriff said, unfolding the document. "I'm here to serve notice of possession. This property is legally owned by Mark Ellison. You and any other occupants must vacate immediately." Susan's mouth parted. "This is a mistake. My husband." The sheriff didn't let her finish. "Your name is not on the deed." The silence that followed hit harder than his words. Kara's smirk broke first. "You can't just kick us out," she said. "That's not how this works." "It is," the sheriff replied. "You've been served. You have 15 minutes to begin vacating. Refusal will be documented." I stepped forward. Susan turned toward me. I expected rage. I expected that venom I'd seen before. Instead, I saw something else. Defeat. "Mark," she said, voice hollow. "We can talk." "No," I said. "We had 17 years to talk." Kara moved forward then, her voice high and shaking. "This isn't right. You're unstable. You're—" The sheriff cut her off. "Allegation noted. Doesn't change the order." Kara turned to Susan. "Mom, do something." Susan looked at me. Really looked. Not past me. Not through me. At me. And I saw something flicker behind her eyes. A flash of guilt. A realization. It didn't last. She turned back to the sheriff. "How long do we have?" "You may take what you can carry today," he said. "A follow-up date will be provided for anything remaining." Gladys opened her screen door across the street. "Well," she said loudly. "I always wondered how she could afford all that new stuff." Kara's head snapped toward her. I didn't speak. I didn't move. The sheriff closed the folder. "Anything else, Mr. Ellison?" I shook my head. "No." He nodded. "Then we're done here." As he walked back to his cruiser, I looked at the porch one last time. The light above the door, I installed that fixture. The welcome mat, Susan picked it. The handrail. I sanded it myself one summer after Kara tripped and blamed me for the splinter. Every corner of that house held a piece of me, and yet none of it felt like home anymore. I turned and walked away. Susan didn't follow. Kara slammed the door behind her. The weeks that followed were quiet in a way that felt unnatural. No calls. No screaming voicemails. No texts begging for money. Diane handled everything. Filed paperwork. Sent notices. Logged every detail. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment near the hospital. It wasn't much. Beige walls, squeaky floorboards, but it was mine. No one yelled there. No one slammed doors. I bought a recliner from a thrift store. A cheap coffee pot. A desk from Craigslist. The first night I slept there, I dreamed of nothing. And when I woke up, I realized I hadn't clenched my fists in my sleep. My jaw didn't ache. My chest didn't feel like it was collapsing. I sat in that recliner, coffee in hand, and I breathed. Really breathed. 3 months later, Susan texted again. "Kara moved in with her boyfriend. The apartment's small. We're struggling. Can we meet? Just talk?" I stared at it for a long time. 17 years of shared meals. Holidays. Hospital runs. Mortgage payments. And that was all it took to erase it? No apology. No ownership. Just a soft little request to come clean up again. I deleted the message. No reply. No comment. Just silence. Not because I wanted to hurt her. Because I'd finally learned not to hurt myself. People think winning feels like a parade. Cheers. Applause. Some kind of reward. But this wasn't winning. It was surviving. I didn't take back my house for revenge. I didn't file papers to hurt them. I did it because I had nothing left to give to people who saw me as disposable. You give someone 17 years. You carry their weight. You absorb their moods. You sacrifice your time, your energy, your peace. And they use the word unstable because it's convenient, because it wins sympathy, because it erases everything they don't want to admit. Diane once told me, silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's the only dignity left. She was right. Kara never reached out. Susan texted once more. Something vague. No subject line. No message body. Just the word, please. I never replied. Because here's the truth. Love without respect is exploitation. Presence without appreciation is servitude. And forgiveness without change is self-betrayal. I gave them everything. And when it was gone, they didn't mourn me. They mourned the convenience. So now I sit here, telling you this not for pity, not for praise, but for truth. Because someone out there is living in silence, grinding themselves to dust for people who won't even remember the color of their eyes. Someone out there thinks love means surrender, that patience means erasure. It doesn't. You have the right to leave, to step back, to reclaim yourself. And if this story sounds like yours, then let mine be a mirror, and ask yourself, was I cruel? Was I selfish? Or was I finally free?